Hey everybody, welcome. I am Daniel G. Garrison. This is another episode of Put Together Conversations. How are y'all doing? I want to welcome all our friends that are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Remember that you can be part of the conversation. So make sure that you write your comments, ask questions, and join us in today's conversation. For those of you watching us on YouTube, can you do me a favor? Scroll down, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll let you know every time there's a new show on the page. And we have shows all week long, from Christian and Daniel's show, the Cardivo, Put It Together Conversations, and breakfast readings from TikTok. So make sure that you join us and follow along. This week, I'm so excited to have a really good friend of mine. We have been friends for a long time. And of course, as we speak, I am trying to find his... Y'all are going to laugh because I can't find his... There he is. Roger Palomino currently lives in Houston, Texas, and is the outreach director for Houston Media Source. Originally from Lima, Peru, Roger has a double major in international business and economics and minored in speech communications and graduated from Sam Houston State University. His mission in life is to give back to the Lgbtq community and to the elderly with great art in various forms such as film. He loves to see films in vintage movie theaters, produce, write, act, dance, going to various art venues and restaurants, go run, stretch, meditate. He is currently in a 10-year relationship with his partner, and he is one of my dearest, most confident, best friends, and he cannot, because he knows way too many secrets. So, Roger Palomino, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for the invite.
My pleasure. Roger and I, for those of you, I always tell how we met. Roger and I met about 14 years ago now. We both submitted and got, I guess we cast on a show in the now, it's not around anymore. CTV is not around anymore, right? As far as I know.
No, as far as I know, no. It was short-lived for its time, but it was a great experience.
And a shout out to Mr. Mario Calderon,
Yeah.
Mr. Mario, who was the host of that show. So, long story short, Roger and I were contestants on a reality contest show for one day, where we were, I guess, competing to be the green carpet for the Latin Grammys, right?
Right.
And I was first eliminated. So if you ever see those videos, spoiler alert, I was the first one eliminated. And then there were two other people. Carlos, oh my God, I just forgot his last name.
Espinosa.
Carlos Espinosa, who
Yeah.
we're still friends. I think he came in third.
Yeah.
And then you came in second.
Yeah, I came in second. Yeah. It was so close, but it's kind of like what I've had many friends tell me throughout the years is like, what's meant for you is meant for you, and when it isn't, it isn't. But there's that learning experience, right, with that event that happens in your life, regardless of what it is. So.
And now I have to go back and tell the story of how we actually first met. We didn't actually meet on set. So for everybody, this is in Houston, and I think we were at the park on like Allen Parkway, I believe, somewhere.
It was, but
right?
Actually, where we first saw each other, I was driving to that location. Of course, this was before the apps you have on your cell phone. So I was just relying on like what I wrote down and my key map, and I had everything planned out, right? So then I'm rushing to go to make sure I'm not late, and I'm dying because I have to go use the restroom, because I drink all that coffee, all that water. I'm always really bad about drinking too many liquids and then getting on the road saying, "Oh, I'm fine." And then I'm rushing to go in there, and I asked the person at the front desk, I think it was a pharmacy, and I'm like, where are your restrooms? And he's like, out in the back. I'm like, good. So I rush to the back, and then you're just staring at me like, okay, what's the problem?
I'm about to pay, and Roger's talking to the guy. Yeah. Of course, I'm annoyed because I like being early.
Right.
There's this little dude asking for the bathroom. Hello, brother Robert. How are you doing? Good. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, Robert.
And so I'm looking over and like, dude, like the bathroom really? Like, how tacky. And
Yeah, yeah, right,
but
right.
I paid and I head off to the park where we're shooting. So I park and then here comes this little car. And I look on, and I think the first thing I said to him was like, "Are you following me or something?"
Yeah, yeah, because I was leaving the restroom, and then you were still at the counter, and you're just like eyeing me, like, okay, what's his problem? He's like rushed in there, now he's rushing out. He's not going to buy anything, and then yeah, that's the first thing you told me when we got to the parking lot. It's like, are you following me? And I'm like, no, I'm here for a
And
reality
then,
show.
and like, are you here? Yeah. That's like, are you here for the shoot? Yeah, you're here for the shoot. And
Yeah,
then I think, humbly, I say, I think we became instant friends. It was just kind of like
yeah,
right away. We hit it off. He was sarcastic. I was sarcastic.
yeah, yeah.
And, and then I think it was a Wednesday night because I think that night I had improv and you went
Yes.
with me
Mm-hmm.
to improv. And then that was it. That was the start of the friendship, and we've been friends ever since. And there's a couple of things before we get into your story that I want to publicly say, because Roger has been a guest on the podcast. For those of you who have been following me for several years now, know that I had put it together podcast originally, and now we're in live stream. But when I first moved to California, first of all, Roger was one of the first people that came to visit me from Houston, which
Mm-hmm.
is really cool, who made me like a dozen chicken milanesas and put them in my fridge, in my freezer. And let me tell you, homemade Peruvian milanesas when you're feeling homesick, boy, man, that's the best. But
Yeah.
um, okay, that I didn't know it was going to get me. But when I first moved here and after my breakup, I was struggling for a little bit, and financially and emotionally. And Roger would send me little postcards and little letters, and he was kind enough to send me money when I was really tight. Uh, so that first year was way more bearable because of you, man. And I don't know that I've ever actually publicly acknowledged it, but you, I mean, I love you and I respect you, and
Thank
you're
you.
like you're my
Me
brother,
too.
and but it's because of this man that I was able to like really like get through it, and for him to visit was like it was so great. So thank you for all that. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think if anything, what I was thinking at the time is I could identify with you in so many ways. And I think especially because, when you're starting off doing this, anything related to the media or acting, it's a struggle. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how much of a struggle it is because, like you were saying, there's moments where you're struggling financially. There's moments where you're struggling mentally because it's perfectly normal for any man or woman to tell themselves, oh, am I really meant for this? Should I really continue? Oh, I just, had a breakup. I just, lost a job. It's so many things that happen to you that mess with your psyche. And I think it helps when you have somebody there to tell you things are going to be okay, because there have been moments in my life where you have done the same for me, where I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on anymore. It's like everything's out of control. And then you're like, no, 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 no. It'll be okay. Just calm down. And so I think it helps having a network of not just actors, but friends and people in your path that help push you along. Like, you might stumble along the way, but they're like, no, that's okay. I'll help you back up. So I think that's, it's very much a reciprocal thing. And I think that's the commonality we have, is that we both like to do things correctly. And we always try to be, as punctual as possible to wherever it is we have to go, whether it's for like an acting gig or a job or meeting someone. So I think that's pretty much part of it.
So, but this dude, and for those of you that know me as the Cardivo, actually the person that introduced me to carbs, like I forget that sometimes, but I usually tell a story about when I started working at the Chakra Shack. But actually, the first person that did a reading for me after recovery was you, and a lot of things that you predicted back then kind of came through, including the breakup. But we're not going to talk about that today.
No, no.
But so you're the one that put that little seed in me. So the Card Devo does owe a little bit of its roots to you. So, okay, before this turns into a whole
Yeah.
kissy, um, you've done so much. So, Roger Palomino, tell us how you put it together.
Well, yeah, we always have a beginning of something, and I think it all stemmed from like my overactive imagination because my dad uh, very much was the type of parent that always try to provide for their kids in every way, shape, or form. You know, not just financially, but just with everything, trying to get you engaged in school, trying to get you engaged in different things. So anyway, when we were living in South America, he realized that I was quite different than him because he's more of a science and math person. And I was more of the creative. I was more the creative kid that couldn't sit still, that, you know, loved watching TV. And he was like, okay, how am I going to get him to be engaged long enough to actually learn the language? How am I going to get him to learn English in a way that he's not realizing he's learning it, but at the same time, he's going to get as much as possible? So that was my introduction to television. So as a kid, I grew up watching all the sitcoms. And then by the time we moved to the States, I had already, I wouldn't say perfected my English, but I think I was comfortable enough by just having seen so many different types of films and TV shows from the Americas, from North America, and then actually coming here and moving here made it so much easier. And I think that was my introduction to what it was to be an actor in a sitcom. But at the time, I didn't realize I wanted to be an actor, and it didn't even cross my mind. I thought it was just being an everyday kid, you know, just being over, you know, my imagination was going, you know, haywire. So it wasn't until I got to community college that I had a professor that was very influential. I'll never forget him, John Mayer. He was an actor from the Chicago theater. And I remember I was like looking at the classes I had to take, and I thought, oh, I have to take acting one. Oh. And to make a long story short, there was a period where I was going to drop the class. I was convinced not to. I took it with him. My final grade was I had to play Stanley Kowalski. Those of you that remember A Streetcar Named Desire. And by all means, at the time, I was nothing close to Marlon Brando. I mean, my wildest dreams. And I thought, you know, a short Latino guy's going to play Stanley Kowalski. Wow. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. I think I can do this. I don't know how I psyched myself to do it. Just the progression of the class and the professor. So anyway, I did it, you know, and he said, don't do it exactly the way this actor did. I want you to give it your own energy. I did. I got my final grade. I got an A- in the class. Then I think that from that point, I was like, okay, this wasn't too painful. I'm going to take acting too with the same professor. And I did. And that led me to Sam Houston State University, where I studied, you know, my double major, international business, economics, minored in speech only because I had all these other basics under my belt. And I figured, okay, I'll just, you know, make it a minor. I found that in community theater, there was an ad for one of the roles in The Moon is Blue, and it took place in the 1950s. And at the time, you know, growing up, I had seen so many films from like the golden era of Hollywood, and in the 50s, I was really a big fan of that time, that period. So I said, yeah, I auditioned. I didn't get the role. 2 weeks passed. I get a phone call from the director saying, yeah, our lead couldn't do it after all, and I wanted to see if you wanted the part. So to make a long story short, I got involved in community theater for various plays, came back to Houston, and then everything led me to this one notification I got on a website that said reality show Fandemonium on CTV, and that's how I met you.
Wow. So before I continue, I want to remind everybody you are watching Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is one of my best friends, Roger Palomino, and he's one of I think one of the reasons we're friends because we are both one of those hyphenated people. There's so many hyphens between what we do, and one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And we're talking about challenges, overcoming, and finding the arts. So please join us and ask questions, join the conversation. Where does I know you explained that your dad kind of introduced you to like TV and entertainment and such, but there's a taking on, for instance, that role in a streetcar, it's a challenge. Like, where does that fighting energy come from?
I would say my dad was always the type of person that he sees a project through to the very end, regardless of how many hours, how long it takes, how much energy you have to put into it. I think that's where part of that comes from. But I think my driving force and my love of the arts and the creativity and just wanting to do it as best as possible, going above 100%, is my mom. I didn't realize growing up that my mom later on, you know, as I became a young adult, told me that when she was younger, before she met my dad, she wanted to be a ballerina and an actress because, you know, she grew up watching the movies. She would, in her little town in northern Peru, she would go to the movie theater and see films from like Bollywood, from India, different formats, different types of films. And I think that's where that natural love, I think, for the arts and filmmaking and films comes from. I think that creativity comes from my mom because, you know, she always loved watching films and just being transported to a whole other world and universe. And I think I'm pretty much the same way in that respect as why I watch TV and film. So
It's really interesting how like we both have that strong mother energy around us. Like both our moms were like fighters and
yeah.
doers, and I want to move on a little bit because before I get onto that part, because one of the things that I really admire about you and is there is no thing that you won't try. Um, like um, like you started tap dancing. You've taken on singing.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't sound like a weird question, but why? Why do you keep looking for new challenges?
I think because I've always been the type of personality since a very young kid that I think growing up, even being around other kids, when I would say, "Oh, I'm going to do that right there," and they would tell me, "No, you can't do it," like basically like doubting me, and I'm like, "But I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." So I think, you know, growing up as an adult, like the more someone dares me, "Oh, I don't think you're going to walk to the end of the room." It's like, "Yeah, I'm going to walk to the other side of the room." And I think when I have challenges like that, that pushes me to go and try harder. So I make it a point to do things that challenge me without going overboard. Like, you know, of course, I would never do my own stunts on a project because if you do and you get injured, you know, as a artist and performer, I mean, that's it, right? So you leave it to the professionals that have insurance and have done that before. So yeah, I would do just about anything except my own stunts.
Gotcha. Gabe, has a relationship with your partner? No, Gabe, David, not with my partner, with his partner.
Yeah.
Did I say
Right.
that
Yeah.
wrong? Maybe I did. Did I read that wrong?
Right. I don't know. Maybe, I guess.
Maybe I read that wrong. Yes,
Yeah.
we are in a relationship with each other's partners for a long time.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
swap, you know, when we get tired
Right.
of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
that's how close we are, David. That's how close
Right.
we are.
Yeah.
Now, before there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but let's talk about Houston Media Source because
Okay.
we both have a relationship with Houston Media Source. For those of you, again, have followed my story for a long time, I've talked about Houston Media Source. Houston Media Source is my home. It's where Daniel G. Garza started in entertainment. 15 coming now on 16 years. December
Right.
1st of this year will be 16 years ago that I did my first appearance. And for those of you, Houston Media Source is a local channel in Houston. It's an access channel. And
Public access. Yeah.
my first World AIDS Day show was there in 2005. And then years later, you came into Houston Media Source. How was that? And then the next question to that, how do you think that you being Latino, LGBT, have you had any influence in anything that happens around there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I'd say yes. I think what going adding to what you were saying about Houston Media Source. I didn't even really learn about it until I was invited to be a guest on a community producer show. Frank Coretta, a big shout out to him, because I mean, he gave me my start pretty much, you know, in Houston Media Source. He invited me to talk about what we're talking about today, you know, just about various topics, but acting as well. And I was intrigued. I was like, oh, so this is a studio, so this is public access TV. How does it work? And it wasn't until years later I saw that there was an opening for a part-time position as an equipment specialist. And I said, yeah, I want to do that, because I mean, I love what they do. And I didn't even know that they've been around that long, since 1986 in the city of Houston. So I was like, yeah, I want to do it. I want to be part of it. I applied. And after, you know, various interviews, I got the part-time position. And then I just love the idea of like, oh, you mean you have access to these cameras and lights and microphones, and you can pretty much create whatever you want, you know, so as long as you're just not trying to commercialize on it, but you can just pretty much have any type of show, whether it be a talk show, documentary, short film. So I've been there going on this September 8 years, and I moved my way from like part-time to full-time, and then now the outreach director, which I would say very similar to what your experience was like. I will always be eternally grateful to Houston Media Source. Not only did I grow as a professional, you know, with an organization such as this, a nonprofit organization, but I've also grown as an artist, as an on-air talent, thanks to Houston Media Source, as community producers, and then the staff. Like I have a great staff that I work with. I mean, everybody, I mean, I think what really keeps us all united in there is the fact that all of us have a love for the arts. All of us have a love for the community. I think this is the first time I've ever been with an organization where I really feel like I'm part of Houston, because I see so many Houstonians coming in through our doors that say, yeah, I want to have a show, you know, I have an idea for a show. Can I do that? And it's just so inspiring to see them grow, kind of like how you've grown as a professional too in this medium.
Yeah, for those of you, if your city has a cable access channel and you want to like get into the arts, entertainment, it's definitely the way to do it. I first, and then I can't speak about Houston Media Source without talking about George Iniguez, who is my godfather and my mentor in the entertainment. He's the one that brought me in. Yeah, if you ever want to blame anybody for everything I do now, find George Iniguez. He created this monster. But you know, one of the coolest things about a local access channel, in this case, Houston Media Source, is that there's not a huge crew. There's not a big production team behind you. You have to learn everything. I learned about cameras and microphones and angles and all from, because if you weren't sitting in front of the camera interviewing somebody, you were in the booth directing the cameras. I learned how to work a camera on there. What have you learned technically, and what have you learned personally while working there?
What I've learned technically is the importance of light. Kind of like right now I have an LED light in my face, so my laptop won't go haywire and try to like darken me up. So I learned the importance of lighting, like you were saying, using microphones, editing, because I teach classes on basic editing with iMovie and then advanced editing with Final Cut. So the importance of just keeping up with the latest in technology, because like I tell all community producers, this is pretty much a great opportunity for you to learn at your own pace. I mean, nobody can really tell you this is how much you need to learn. The learning is entirely up to you. If you have an unlimited amount of energy to where you say, yes, I want to learn as much as possible, then you will. But if you only want to reach a certain point, then of course that's the highest you'll reach. So it really is all psychological. It just depends on how much you want to learn and how you want to do it. But the advantage of public access TV is that you learn at your own pace. Nobody's there to say, you know what, Daniel, I don't think that show was creative enough. Go ahead and do it over again. I mean, you have so many different experience levels to where you feel like, oh yes, I actually did it. I did my very first show. It might not be perfect, but it's at the point where, you know, I'm able to get it to look as professional as possible for now. And then once I build my knowledge base, I'm able to improve on the areas that I feel like, these are my weaker points, but I'm able to improve on them later on. And so I'd say on a personal level, what I've learned is I've learned the importance of teamwork. Like, we always have an opportunity to learn about teamwork in our lives, whether you're involved in organized sports or you work for other organizations. But I think here, more importantly, the importance of all of us as a staff, that we always have each other's back. We always feel like we do, that we can go to each other for any type of technical advice or even, artistic advice, and how important that is. Like, I know, you might agree with me, in the LGBTQ community, we always talk about our chosen family. And I feel that with every production, and in this case, Houston Media Source, the chosen family is the staff, because we're all there for each other. And we all want to make sure that each other succeeds, because if one of us succeeds, all of us succeed. And I feel like in the world of arts, that's very important for everyone to have that type of bond and commonality.
Yeah, and I was on. Oh shoot! I of course I was gonna draw blank. I should have written down. But when I was with George and we were doing the shows, there was a camaraderie, because it's a small group. There was only 3 of us or 4 of us in the studio at that time, and you're trying to do the best you can. You're trying to represent the community the best you can, and there's so much love and passion behind what you do. So again, for those of you who have never been into a local access channel, go check it out. They're awesome. And if you're in Houston, go check out Houston Media Source, because it's really amazing. Personally, because we talked about it in your bio, trying to bring a voice to the LGBT community. As a gay Latino immigrant male, what is your message for the community? What do you personally like? If we were writing down in the book of history right now, like, this is Roger's input into history, what would you want, I guess, your legacy to be?
I would say, if I can do this, anybody can do it. Because there's nothing really that makes me different than anybody else. I would say that, all of us represent a part of the demographic. And I think going beyond the hashtags and the labels, if anything, I want to make sure that whatever type of legacy I leave behind, that, in the form of art, this is where we were at a point in history, and then this is where we could be later down the road. So I feel like what I enjoy the most about doing all of this, just interacting with people and creating art in the form of like film or TV, is that we can show people what history was like at the time we were around, and the things that we have yet to work on and accomplish for the future. But I'd say this is just a moment in time, and I feel like all of us are on a journey, and whatever it is that we have to learn in that journey, definitely own it, enjoy it, live it, and try to give as much of yourself to others, so that way others don't feel like they're alone.
Sweet. So you said this moment in time. What is your thoughts on where we are in this moment represented? Because we're both in entertainment. We've been in entertainment for a long time. We're both gay, Latinos, immigrants, and personally, and you've known this, my feeling is like, if nobody's going to give me a show to host, I'm like, I've created my own show. Like, I'll have my own show. So when people say there's no representation, I'm like, there may not be at a high level, but we're here. We are doing stuff. We are putting out things. So what is your thoughts? And for everybody joining us, let me just remind everybody, for everybody joining this is Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Roger Palomino, and we're talking about representation, legacies, and our roles in society. So where do you think we are as far as representation in arts, and I would say entertainment in general, from music to television?
Well, I think especially what you touched on, just being Latino and gay, or part of the acronym of LGBTQ, we're at a point in history where now, with everything that's happened with the pandemic, that gives us an opportunity to really just sit back and say, you know what? These are the things I need to focus on in my life. And these are the things that I might not spend so much energy on. But I'd say, like what you were saying, if nobody's going to write roles for me, whether for a film or for a TV show or for whatever format, then maybe A, either I have to write these myself, or B, um, get involved with a network of people that are going to write roles catered to like the demographic I represent. Because now we're recently seeing, like in Hollywood, there's a lot more diversity and representation. The thing is, it's always, the diversity has always been there, but they're finally beginning to show it. And I think maybe that's why I gravitate more toward independent film. And that's a whole other subject, because everybody has their own definition of what independent film is to them. But to me, independent film is the opportunity, regardless of your budget, whether $0 to like thousands of dollars, it gives you the opportunity to write real stories about real people, regardless of your age, your gender, your skin color, orientation, political views, religious beliefs. You know, outside of all that, you have an opportunity to create a universe and characters that would not have been given the time of day anywhere else. So I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, 'cause I'm with you guys. Like, you and I have sometimes a very similar way of thinking about life and opportunities. It's like, if you're
Yeah,
not going to open the door for me, I'm gonna I'm gonna create my own door. I'll
right.
make a door. You know what, man? That's fine. Like, but don't be surprised that I'm knocking down a wall and getting through anyway. Um, how hard has it been, or how easy has it been for you to move up professionally?
I think with an organization like Houston Media Source and the people that are there now as staff, it was easy in the sense that I knew I had support from my coworkers. So regardless of what was going on at the time, I knew that I could go to any one of them for anything. But I think the challenges lie in just the preconceived notion society has as to like what they see. You know, going back to like that old saying, judging a book by its cover. So when you see someone, you know, you have all these thoughts and images of like, oh, they look a certain way, so they must be like this, they must do that, you know. And that's going across all the labels you can think of, just like stripping us down of every label we have. Oh, you're male, you must be this way. You're gay, you must be that way. You're Latino, you must talk like this. So the challenges lie in just breaking a lot of these stereotypes and hashtags that people create in their own minds. And I think it's really when you actually get the opportunity to meet someone and interact with them and talk to them and have a real conversations where you think nothing that I saw in the media is true about this particular stereotype or type of person. You know, I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt, and just the real learning learns when you go out there and interact with people.
Yeah, because I agree with that. You know, we worked so hard. There was a time when, especially in the LGBT, and I can mostly talk about the gay community because that's where I sit. I've never been a lesbian. I've never been transgender. I've never been bi. So it's always about the gay thing. But I feel like in the gay community, there was a time when the more stereotype a character was on television, on a network, whatever, the more people gravitated to it. And then, for instance, Jack on Will and Grace, like everybody loved Jack because he was
Yeah.
so stereotypical, and we were able to make fun of the stereotypes without being insensitive. And then all of a sudden, there was a shift where no, everything but the stereotype. Like, we're going for everything but the stereotype. And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, people were like, well, wait a minute, they're trying to make us straight. And it's like, no, it's just that we're not all, we're not, yes, we I love Jack, you know, but we're not all Jack. Some of us are more Will, and that's okay. And then now there is this shift. I feel like there is this new shift where, like, okay, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know where we're supposed to sit. Like, I don't really understand always, like, what are we supposed to be supporting right now? Uh, the stereotypes or the not stereotypes? Are we somewhere in the middle? Like I don't know, like what is your thoughts on, because Houston has a big, not that LA doesn't, I mean, I live in Laguna Beach, but California, um, Houston has a huge LGBTQ community. We have Montrose there, and I lived
Hmm.
there for a while. And you walk into Montrose area, and you automatically feel just like there's everything. There's the twinks, there's the bears, there's the butch lesbians, there's the
Hmm.
lipstick lesbians, and everything in between. Um, Based on your experience and your knowledge, where are we right now as far as representation? Who are we supposed to be? And I put that in word. Who are we supposed to be?
I think we're supposed to be whoever we're comfortable being, because I think where we're at right now is we just want visibility. I think if anything, we just want not just visibility in the arts, but we want visibility everywhere. We want visibility in every single aspect in regard to like your professional life. If you have to go see a medical doctor, doctors that are able to deal with, you know, every patient that walks in through their door. I mean, you do hear stories about transgender men and women that really don't have the comfort level to go to a doctor and say, these are my needs, I'm not feeling well, this is what I have going on. And they don't have that confidence to like really confide in that medical professional. So I think where we're at now is we need not just representation, but visibility as much as possible. Because I think, if anything, in order for us to continue to progress, we need it across the board, from our government to, you know, the businesses to what we see on TV. You know, that's what we really need.
Yeah, that's a really a good. Thank you, Ida, for that comment. Montrose has been invaded by the straight people. It's lost a little bit of the game identity. We know ever
Yeah.
since I moved down to Montrose, it just went downhill after that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think
later
I
on,
understand that too, because you know, that community, because people have a hard time, allies, I shouldn't say all, but just some allies have a hard time understanding that. And I'm like, well, think of it this way: these places were created for us in a time in history where nobody wanted to see us. Maybe they were embarrassed by seeing us. Maybe we couldn't be ourselves, whatever the case was. And we have these places to resort to because we can be ourselves. And the thing is, it's no different than like opening your house to guests. It's like, you're welcome to come. You're welcome to eat at my dinner table, and you're welcome to, you know, interact with me, but it's still my house. You know, by all means, please respect it. And that's really what we want. I mean, if people come and visit us, fine, but please respect it. Just keep in mind, this is a gay bar, or this is an LGBTQ place that was created for us
yeah,
to feel safe.
I definitely feel that there was a when I first moved into Houston in the Montrose area, there was a feel, and you felt at home. Like, like for those of you watching who are not part of the LGBT community, let me tell you, when you live in a city even as big as Houston, everybody knows everybody. You know of people. You know where, what, when. You say restaurants. Like, okay, I'm gonna say this. I miss Papayegas. I so
Oh,
miss
yes.
Papayegas. I
I do
so
too.
miss. I used to work there, and man, their pastas were delicious. We have another question here, Roger. How do you perceive moving the dial forward for the LGBTQIA? How can we influence the younger generations to see the importance of the aforementioned realm? Oh, that's a very good question.
That's a very good question, because I think that adds on to why Houston Media Source exists. You know, as public access TV, you can pretty much have any type of show or format. So with that being said, if anybody out there in the city or the surrounding area is watching, and they think, okay, I want to have maybe a mini documentary about where we were at in history, where we're going, then, you know, that gives you an opportunity to be part of this and just create a show or a mini documentary and say, yes, you know, this is what I want to show, and I want to use this medium, the traditional medium of television, to show our history. So that's one of the ways we can do it. And then another way, like, at least personally, the way I'm doing it is I'm part of Mayor Turner's LGBTQ advisory board. So with that
Oh
being said,
wow.
that gives us an opportunity to really um, represent try to represent all the letters in the acronym as much as possible, and just, you know, and make sure that everybody has visibility and representation in the city.
See, that's a really Okay, that wasn't in your bio, dude. You should have totally put that in your
I
bio.
know, yeah. There's
How
too much
dare
to
you
add.
leave that out? Because that is huge. It's
Yeah,
people don't understand. Like for instance, I'm involved in the HIV community, and I've been involved for 20 years. And which by the way, folks, if you're going to be here at 5 o'clock, check out the 5 o'clock show.
yeah,
It's all about HIV education and information. So check it out. But when you're invited to the table, it's not to take over the table.
no,
You're not there to like reinvent it. You're there to bring information, as Christian was saying, move the dial forward. Because
right.
sometimes, I don't know about you, I feel like sometimes, yes, we're mad, and yes, we're angry, and yes, we want more equal rights, and we want that. But when we approach the table with people that have been playing by these rules for a long time, and we come in, we're like, nope, we're changing everything.
Yeah.
You change nothing. There's a process, and I know it's frustrating. So I guess I'll ask you this: what do you feel you bring to the table, and have you had an influence in some of the process?
Bringing to the table as far as
As far as that committee is concerned.
I'd say bringing to the table uh, my experience in public access TV, because that gave me an opportunity to tell them, yes, this is my experience with public access TV and producing, and we can use this opportunity to show on television what it is that we need to accomplish. But the thing is, like, this is the first time I'm in a board such as this, because it's not just what I say or think of. It's so many other people that bring a lot to the table and contribute. So I feel like, I only represent one letter of the acronym, and even if there are other people that are part of that letter G, we all have a different mind. We all have different ideas and things that we bring to the table. So it's just a matter of getting what we need for the time and just implementing it in a wider scope, like the city.
I think you just said something that should be on a T-shirt. I'm just one letter of the acronym,
Yeah.
and that's sometimes. And I say this highlighted in a positive. That's all you need to bring. Like I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to change the whole world, but you've got to start with your own space sometimes, and little by little, I'm very blessed that my podcast opened many doors, and now the live stream's opening doors, to having guests like you and guests come and talk about other aspects. But it's that little by little. Like, it's taken almost 10 years to get to where I am today, and I still have a long way to go. But it's just, so I guess what I'm trying to say to the folks watching is, bring your acronym to the table. Bring your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, however small you think it is. Some people just may not know. Like, I'm sure there are people in Houston that don't know about Houston Media Source and what it brings to the table, and the possibilities. Just like I tell people, like, you may not know about putting together conversations, but we could open some doors for you if you just give us a chance. So I think that was huge for you to say that. Like, I'm just one letter. Like, I need, it goes back to what we're talking about in the very beginning. It takes a team to get things done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It does take a team, and also you have to keep in mind, I have a voice. And even though right now we're living in very challenging times, because of the pandemic and COVID, it's like, okay, that really has slowed down a lot of things that we do as professionals, or if we belong to like organizations or boards. But as human beings, I feel like we have the capacity to retool how we do things. Okay, so maybe I can't go out there and meet face to face. I can organize doing things via Zoom or via something like this. So, there's always a solution. Now, is this a solution that you thought of immediately that you like? Not necessarily, but there always is a solution when you try to think of, like, okay, I can't go out there, so how am I going to still do what I got to do and be effective?
Yeah. And so for all of you watching, I mean, it doesn't matter what your industry you're in. It's just about being present.
Hmm.
No, you don't have to wear rainbows everywhere you
No.
go, and you don't have to go. You have to walk in on a unicorn to make an impact. But stand your, be honest with yourself. Be true to yourself, and people respect that. I'm gonna say people respect that. For everybody watching, this is Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host Daniel Gigarza. My guest today is my friend Roger E. Palomino, and we're talking about representation, sitting at the table, and helping change the way people see us. We have another
Yeah.
question for you before we continue. Roger, what do you feel is your silver lining from the lockdown and COVID pandemic experience?
Wow. I'd say the silver lining is being able to give back to my family, especially my parents. I think that really has shown me the importance of like appreciating the people around you, especially because, you know, they represent a part of the demographic that, you know, they really have to be careful and they really have to just try to stay as safe as possible. So I think I'm more appreciative of what I have. Not that I wasn't before, but I think that really has forced me to really think about what I have around me and the people that are in my life now. And just being able to reconnect with people I haven't talked to in a while. Like within the last few months, I've reconnected with friends and colleagues and people that, you know, I haven't talked to in ages. But I think that's the silver lining for me, is just appreciating the life that we have now and the humanity that we have, and that, you know, keeping the faith that we all are going to get through this.
Awesome. Now, tradition on the show is that we share some words of wisdom with the audience. So, Roger E. Palomino, what words of wisdom do you have today?
I would say my words of wisdom is never give up. Never give up, no matter what. I mean, life is all about challenges. There are always going to be challenges no matter what. And my advice is, if you're still breathing, there's always the possibility of a solution. So just keep that in mind. And no matter what you're going through, always know that tomorrow is a whole other day.
Awesome. I want to show everybody this is Roger's Instagram account. Make sure you go check him out. You can see some awesome photos, such as this one right here.
Yeah.
I was looking for a photo that represented everything that you do, and this is a little bit of everything that Roger does. And I don't. I was going to see some of the other photos, but they're a little too risky for daytime television. So if you want to see the more adult photos, make sure you go follow him on Instagram. Let me put that again so you go to him. Because I know y'all are wondering. I was like, well, what does he have?
Yeah, that's how you get people to look at your social media. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Let's just say Roger is not shy. So one thing I admire about him. We have about 10 minutes left. Is there something that I did not ask that you want to share?
No, I think you asked all, wonderful questions. But yeah, going back to that picture, I think that picture not only represents everything that I enjoy and love, but you probably remember this. You remember Frankel's, the costume store in Houston, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to love going there. I remember when I was in high school, I would be lost, just losing myself going to that place. Like whatever I was going through, whether good or bad, I just enjoyed being lost in the aisles of like costumes and different things that they had, because I think deep down inside, I knew that was part of who I am, you know, just a creative, an artist. So I loved looking at the costumes and envisioning like, what would it be like if I take on this persona, or use this at a costume party, or use this on stage. And I think that's where everything really began to brew and get started related to acting. So the pictures that you put up there, in me in the different costumes, like most of those I made from whatever I would find in places like Frankel's. So I really enjoyed, I miss that store. You know, I kind of wish that they were still around, but it was wonderful. Like, just having experienced that in my lifetime, just knowing that that store is there. And actually, right on well, I might have to like shift my camera, but I have this from Frankel's. I don't know if you could see it. Let me know if it freezes at any time. You see him?
Oh, the headpiece.
Yeah, that's an Egyptian costume that I got from Frankel's.
Nice.
But
I
yeah,
don't know if you
I
saw
just
the comment. Ida said, "I wish I would have met you when she lived in Houston." Thank
hey
you.
Ada,
Thank you for everything you do. But yeah, us show that
me
picture.
too.
Let me show that picture again, just so people can see it. There's him. Now, the top left-hand corner, from what I'm seeing, that's from your tap dancing, correct?
Yeah, that was from our 30-year anniversary show for Houston Media Source. We had done it at the Match, which is a venue that has different theaters. So, they had asked me to host it. So I figured, okay, what can I do to introduce the whole thing? So I did a tap routine going back to the golden era of Hollywood, the early talkies. So I did a song and dance, sweeping the clouds away. And I did a very basic tap routine because prior to that, I had only taken tap for like 6 months.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
and then the next picture is you.
as a ventriloquist. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was always fascinated by what ventriloquists do, and if there's any professional ventriloquist watching this, like I really admire that art. I mean, because that is something that is not easy. I mean, I've tried it myself and I'm not, all that good compared to like the professionals, but I use that for one Halloween. So
Okay, and then the Halloween, is that a Halloween costume next? Is that
yeah,
Gladiator or an angel?
well, close. Yeah, I actually close. It's based on the Nintendo game Kid Icarus. I was a big fan of that game and I played it religiously. That's from the original Nintendo. And so I decided to dress as a Latino Kid Icarus.
Now we have another question before we end out. It says, Roger, you and Daniel seem to be incredibly talented at offsetting your fear. Ha, true. How do you do this? What practices do you do? That's a really good question.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it is a great question. I think if anything, doing a lot of mental exercises, just mentally preparing, especially before you go on camera, whether you're doing anything related to a podcast or you're going to be on a set, just mentally preparing for it. And I think that's what really helps me, just mentally preparing for it, knowing what you're going to do when you go do that on that particular moment. And just interacting with as many people as possible. I think the more you interact with others, I think that more you find your own comfort level, with every interaction you have.
Well, I have to, I've said this in other shows that my friends don't normally know that I'm competing with them, but I'm always competing with everybody. I'm very competitive, and I
Yeah.
do it. I not in a, well, what are you doing? It's always in a, oh wow, look what they're up to. Like, what can I do now? What can I get involved in? And we're in the last like 7 minutes, but again, I want to say that one of the out of one of the best influences in my life that has motivated me, inspired me. Uh, you challenge me every time you do something new. You challenge me to see what I can do with my life, and you're just amazing. And I mean, I can't say enough great things about you. I love you. We have been friends for so
Love
long,
you too.
shared so much that uh, I can't but just I'm excited every time you do something, and I can't wait. I hate that word. I so look forward to being back in Houston and coming to see you, and hopefully maybe one day do another show there at Houston Media Source. Maybe on my
Yeah,
20th anniversary, I'll come in
you
and
never know.
y'all give me a chance to do a show from there.
Yeah.
But uh, stop it! I'm not gonna cry. You're gonna cry. What keep? And I know we asked this question, but how do you set your goals? How do you set your intentions? What do you do to keep moving forward? Does that make sense? Like, not necessarily what pushes you, but how do you figure out, like, that's where I want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, that's the one thing I always keep in mind every day. Is like, you were talking about competition not that long ago. So I always tell myself, how can I improve today? How can I improve what I did yesterday, today? What can I do different? If something didn't work for me yesterday, fine. How am I going to retool my agenda for the day or for the week, and do it different, to where I improve on the things that maybe I was lacking the day before?
Awesome. Well, we're down to the last 5 minutes. I want you to please say hi to your parents. They're such awesome people.
Yeah, definitely.
I need to tell another story before we go because okay, shallow question. I intensely dislike you both for having such perfect and young looking skin.
Wow.
What's your regimen?
Wow, you're being way too nice, Christian. Thank you. But I don't really have a regimen necessarily. I think, just try to drink water, try to sleep, what I can, try to eat. That's another thing. I've been trying to eat better, because maybe on the outside it doesn't show, but on the inside, you are your numerical age. And so, nature has a way of telling you might look a certain way on the outside, but on the inside, you really are the numeric age that, so it's like, okay, so it takes me a little longer to warm up before I go run or exercise or do whatever. But yeah, I'd say that's another challenge is, accepting like, oh, wow, I'm actually the age that I am. Wow.
Yeah. I just wake up like this, so I don't know what skin regimen. What is that? Before I go, I have one more story to share because this was like really touching when it happened. I came to Houston, and I look back now and thought, how cocky was I? Because I'd been in LA, I've been in California for a couple of years, and I drove to Houston on a trip. I decided to take a road trip. It was my revelation trip, and I wanted to do a workshop in Houston, and nobody showed up except for Roger. Roger was right there with me, and he helped me organize everything. And your mom was so sweet. The day before I left Houston, because I stayed at your house, and she gave me $100 for the trip back, and she was like, you deserve this. You've worked so hard. And every time I talk to you and every time we talk about your parents, I'm reminded by that she really didn't know me that well, but I guess she saw just eagerness in me and wanting to be better and show. And, but yeah, his mom knew that my workshop had completely just not gone the way that I wanted it. And she gave me $100 to say, here's for your trip home. And
Yeah, right back at you. Yeah, because I had that conversation with her and told her everything that happened. And so I think, like, if there is a part of me that is giving to those closest to me, I get that from my parents, especially my mom, because I know that, she truly believes in karma. I think the more giving you are when you have those very tough moments in your life, it's returned. And so I always try to keep that in mind. I think that's a legacy my parents leave me, is that they gave me the tools to like move forward, and hopefully I'm able to like inspire others that way.
She reminded me of that lesson that, sometimes you just do it. Like,
right.
Don't question it. Don't think about it. It's like, hey, I can help you right now. Let me do it. And you like just pay it forward somewhere. Pay it forward. And please tell your mom that I do my best.
Oh yeah, and she sees that too. She sees everything you do, and she's very impressed. So
thank you. I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. And Christian says, your 099 serve regimen, Daniel. How dare you, sir? How dare you? And let me just let you know that I shop at a Dollar Tree, so it's actually like $1.50. So just so you know.
No, I mean, thank God for stores like, the Dollar Tree or Family Dollar, because, when you're like at a time crunch and you're on a very tight budget, it's like, okay, I really don't want to spend all this money on, whatever it is, cleaning supplies, food, whatever. So you just go there immediately for a quick fix. It's like, there, it's done.
But to be honest, folks, yes, they do sell a 99 cents Pond's
They
face
do,
cream.
yeah.
Yeah, that even smells really nice, and I've used that for a long time.
That's your regimen.
So go 99 cents only stores. Thank you very much.
That's your regimen. See, I think that's the beauty of the world we live in today, especially here in the United States, is that we have so many options. Like, okay, so this store is going to charge me how much? I'm going to go to this other store. I love comparison shopping too, because having worked in retail, it's like, I'm not spending that much on that. I'm going to go to this
Yeah.
other place.
And my night lotion that I clean my face with is from Amazon for under four. I think it's like $6.95, and
Yeah.
it is the best clean lotion. Like I clean my face with that every night, and it is the best. If you want more information on that, get in touch with me.
You've never
I
had
don't
bad
want to promote it.
skin. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to
so
promote it here because they're not paying me to promote
yeah.
them, but I will let you know in private. Roger, man, thank you so much. Please come back again.
Yeah, thank you. I loved it. I mean, the time flew already. I can't believe it's over. But yeah, I'll definitely will come back.
All right. So for everybody watching, this is my best buddy. I just love this guy, Roger E. Palomino. Check him out on Instagram. Go follow him. I will. All his information is in the descriptions. I'm gonna put you in the green room for just a second, and I'll be right back for you. Don't go away. But thank you,
Okay.
man. I love you so much.
I love you too.
For everybody watching, so this has been Putting Together Conversations. Remember, we have shows on Little Mexican Productions Inc. every day of the week. Pretty much. Join us on Wednesdays for the Christian and Daniel show, on Fridays for the Car Devo, and on Saturdays with two Put It Together Conversations at noon and 5. And if you're, I need to add it to the schedule, but if you're not following me on TikTok, you should. I have breakfast readings every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. So join me there live. And if you're missing them, go to YouTube and subscribe. Please subscribe, and you can follow us there. You get notified also if you hit the little bell about every show that we post. I talk about this every show also. Grubby Bunny in the Cubs Game. If you haven't bought it, you should. It's my book. I wrote it along with illustrated. It's illustrated by Jennifer and Vivian Gatch, and it's at all these fine bookstores. It's a book on meditation for kids, but it's also for adults, so you can get it too. Go buy it. I hope you like it. The Spanish version is coming soon. And for those of you in El Paso, I will be in El Paso for a store book fair, so you can come out there and get a sign. So maybe you like that. For now, I want to thank all of you for watching. This is Putting Together Conversations, a show about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what your journey is like. The idea is to inspire and motivate other people to go after their dreams and goals, and I hope that today's conversation has inspired you. For now, I want to thank Roger, thank all of you for joining us, and I guess we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.